Good morning on this side, guys. We having some technical difficulties on the radio side of things. If y'all stay tuned, we'll be back to talk a little sports here in just a moment. Talking about Saban being vindicated potentially through this draft. Is Kirby king of college football and has the NIL come at the right time to maybe keep a few college players in college 1 year longer. So we'll be back to talk about those things in just a moment. Just working on the radio airwave side of things. So thanks for your patience, guys. We'll be back in just a few minutes. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, if you guys have any questions, thoughts, comments on winners, losers, biggest steals of the draft, biggest disappointment of the draft, please feel free to add those questions and we'll incorporate them into this morning's conversation. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, while we're working on that, we're gonna go ahead and start talking. We may have to repeat some of this conversation, but since you guys have tuned in, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Hey, Mason, is there a way to turn the feedback off on this side? Um, All right. Good morning, guys. Um, hey, listen, Blind Squirrel Sports. We're having some technical difficulties on the radio side, so I may have to repeat some of this when we finally get things worked out on that side to bring the radio side in. But since some of you guys are in, we'll go ahead and talk about some of the questions that you guys have specifically, or your comments specifically. Uh, this is one of those Martin Houston Live on Facebook, social media, YouTube shows. But Curtis Lewis coming out the gate swinging this morning. Curtis Lewis said, "I had no surprises from the draft. I said Bolden wouldn't be drafted. Check. And B Rob would go between third or possibly fourth round. Check. If I and if I say this is Curtis, if I say a rooster would pull your truck out of a ditch, hook them up. Um, so, all right, Curtis, I hear you. I hear you, Curtis, in terms of what you're saying there. Um, but yeah, listen, I agree. I said that B Rob will probably go somewhere in that third or fourth round as well. I thought Slade might pop into the seventh round, and I thought there was a even better chance the way the draft went the first few days, that Slade would have an opportunity because so many wide receivers went early. I thought that actually may increase Slade's chances of getting drafted, but of course that didn't happen. And you need to understand, when my year was a year, it used to be 12 rounds, then it went down to 8 my senior year, and then from that point on, for the last 30 years, 29 years or so, it's been only a 7 round draft. And know we want to see these guys drafted, but being a draft pick and or free agent, still a pretty big accomplishment. But no surprises in terms of Alabama players. I don't think the the other thing that we need to think about is that um, when you look at these draft picks and guys going out, um, are we looking at a situation where the NIL might come into play a little bit more in keeping some of these guys around? Alabama had 6 guys, I think, that signed as uh, free agents, but would those guys have been better served if that came back? I don't know. I mean, when you start looking at the ones who had the option to come back, some of them didn't. But when you look at the option to come back, maybe one or two of those guys would have come back with an opportunity. And Curtis Moore the second kind of talks about that. He says the draft was a head scratcher to me. So many kids left undrafted. The Watermeyer kid out of Texas A&M, the big tight end. I'm shocked. I can't even. I sometimes I sit back and look at the NFL draft and go, what did this kid do or didn't do that hurt him? Because you watch the film on Watermeyer, the tight end out of Texas A&M, kind of shocking that he didn't go into the draft. And Curtis Moore said when he played Bama, he roasted us and was a mismatch at tight end. And then linebacker out of Clemson didn't go, Scholaski, and the Ontario wide receiver out of Ole Miss, et cetera. It was a lot of talent left on the board. And the NFL draft is to the portal that everyone else. I mean that the portal is to college football. A lot of guys going out early and all that, and they're not finding it, as the kids say, they thought it was going to be sweet up in here, and they step out, and it's not. And so when you look at that, just a tough situation for a lot of guys. But the big question I have I want to get to this morning is King Kirby an appropriate term for Kirby Smart. And of course, Blind Squirrel Sports, Georgia fan, says King Kirby sounds good to me, but Bama fans might not agree with me on that one. Uh, and that's what you have to ask yourself is I know a lot happened. 15 players drafted from Georgia. Whew, that's a lot of players. I think the most is 17. In an entire draft, and that was many moons ago. And that may have been in when it was 12 rounds. I think Texas happened for not like 1980 something, and I think it was 12 rounds then. 15 is the most in the first 6 rounds. So my big question is, yeah, he drafted the most. He had the most drafted, and he is king of college football, at least for the year, with a national championship. Got to give him some love there. And he's the king of the draft. And TJ Watson said he was king for this draft. Uh, are you ready to a couple years ago everybody was ready to dethrone Saban as the king of college football really quick. Um, does one year make you the king, or does it make you the prince? Is he the prince of college football, and Nick Saban is still the king? But what a draft for Georgia, and I guess I kind of look at it two ways. Um, how did Alabama beat um, beat Georgia with all of that talent? And there's some folks trying to say that Georgia's loaded again this year. I don't know about that. And Virgil Williams is asking the question that I'm asking. The question is, can Kirby do it again after losing that many? Saban has done this for 14 consecutive years. In other words, um, you know, after the first year of not having anyone drafted and then turn around and starting on this streak, Saban has managed to be relevant and competitive year in and year out. And Dabo did it for multiple years, but we saw Dabo fall off this year. Now the question is, can Dabo jump back into that conversation? We've seen Ohio State do it for a season and then fall off. So the big question to me is are we're so quick in our culture, in our society, in our world to uh, name people off of one result to dethrone. We're getting some feedback on this side again, guys. Dethrone the reigning king in order to put someone else in there because we want things to happen. We want to. I guess it may be about clickbait or what, but King Kirby has a nice ring to it. If you're a Georgia fan, Alabama fans, don't panic. Don't get drawn in too much into to the hype around Kirby because he. Hey, listen, every accolade that Kirby Smart is getting right now he deserves. I mean, right? I mean, he beat the reigning national champion. Um, whether we were down a player or two or not, uh, he did win the game, and then he followed that up with an NFL draft. So that's going to make it even more interesting when it comes to the uh, recruiting of next year. Will Kirby now be able to start a streak like Saban? Uh, we're waiting to see. We're waiting to see. But I want you to think about some things that Kirby, even though he has more players drafted in the 6 rounds in the draft than Nick Saban's had in his career. Nick Saban always has those guys in the top 2 or 3 rounds. Um, Greg Armstrong says, "Does a true king go 5-5 in a season?" Greg Armstrong, please explain that thought. We'll I'm not sure what you mean by that, so give us a call or rewrite your chat there or explain your chat. Does a true king go 5-5 in a season? And we got a lot of questions. It looks like we have things fixed on the other side to get things going on the radio airwaves. Thanks to all of you who have been a part of social media this morning on Facebook, YouTube, as well as on the app. But coming back on the other side, we are going to turn around and bring in the rest of the audience, and we'll continue the conversation. If you want to be a part of it, once again, you can post here on Facebook, but also coming back on the other side, the Alabama One hotline will be open. Thanks, guys. Time to kick things off once again. Like I said, you may hear some of this again, but hey, that's okay too. Glad that you guys were with me early this morning to get things rolling. This is the Martin Houston Show, the Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Everything's pretty quiet as we start our Monday morning. If you do see conditions throughout the day that folks need to hear about, please give me a call, 205-886-8886. For a fair, fast, fun family environment, visit Townsend Nissan. They make buying a breeze. I'm Captain Ray.
Tuscaloosa Gunsmith does gun repair, modifications, cleaning, Cerakoting, and laser engraving for guns, and they sell Black Rifle coffee. Tuscaloosa Gunsmith, just off 15th Street behind the fire station.
I can walk again, I can cross my legs again, I can wear heels again.
After years of living with chronic joint pain, Andrea Southard is now living a normal life, pain-free, thanks to natural biologic treatments at QC Kinetics.
We tried everything, and my husband had heard the commercial for QC Kinetics on the radio, and he told me to call him and check it out.
That phone call changed Andrea's life. QC Kinetics used powerful natural biologics to treat her aching joints. It's high-tech precision medicine that can restore and repair damaged joint tissue with no surgery and no drugs, providing lasting relief.
And I felt like I was in my 20s again. I could tie my own shoes. Really, the little things that you don't think about.
Pain in your hips, knees, back, shoulders? Get rid of the pain now. Call QC Kinetics.
205-686-1941. That's 205-686-1941. QC Kinetics, 205-686-1941.
It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, brought to you by Pepsi.
Hey, why don't you join the movement for a world without cancer? Hey, save the date for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life in Tuscaloosa. It happens on Friday, May 13th at Central High School. Be sure to save the date, Friday, May 13th, and help in the fight against cancer. To get more details, be sure to log on to relayforlife.org/Tuscaloosa.
Work is a part of all of us. We know that the world around us has changed, and that's why the Alabama Department of Labor is here to get you back to working hard. Work is a part of all of us. Let us help you get back to it by visiting your local career center or alabamaworks.alabama.gov. Funding provided by the USTOL, ETA, and Federal WILA, and Equal Opportunity Employer Program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request. Brought to you by this station and the Alabama Broadcasters Association.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm today, partially sunny, a few scattered showers and storms mainly this afternoon and this evening. High today 84, tonight's low 65. Tomorrow a mixture of clouds and sunshine with scattered showers and storms again. The high 85. I'm James Spann of the ABC 30-40 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Sophomart Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit him online at southmarkdesign.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook. Mark,
All right, welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Hey, let's kick things off like we do each and every day. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports, your show, your team. We're live and local and ready to get things going on the radio airwaves as well as on Facebook, the Martin Houston Live on Facebook and Tide 109 on Facebook, and at Martin Houston 35 on Twitter, and also Martin Houston Live on YouTube. We're glad to have you on the app, on the internet, on our website, all of those places. We're live, local, and broadcasting, and glad that you've chosen to be a part of the show. Resetting the show for everyone. Of course, we have to talk about the NFL draft, the winners, the losers, the big steals, no deals, etc. Bama had 7 drafted, 6 undrafted, all signing with teams today. Kirby Smart, getting some love out there. King of college football. Is that a little too early? King Kirby, is that a little too early in the game in terms of giving him that title? Maybe Prince Kirby, King, or King for a day. You know how we do the coach for a day here? Maybe Kirby's King for a day. 15 players drafted in the first 6 rounds, most ever in the NFL, and since they've gone to the 7-round draft, the most in a single draft, and coming off a national championship. So, my big question from that is, can he repeat? Is this upcoming year Kirby Smart's biggest challenge? Then the other question that falls off of that would be, if Kirby had 15 NFL players that were drafted, not to count any free agents yet, I haven't counted if they had any undrafted free agents signed, and we lost our first and 2 of our top 3 players, right, based on the draft. 2 of our top 3 players was our 2 wide receivers. They went second and third player off the board, coming off of ACLs, and we still had a chance to beat that team. Does that vindicate Saban as an X's and O guy? I mean, does that mean Saban actually does a better job getting his guys ready to play, and it's not just a talent thing? Because it took an all-time great, loaded, talented team for Kirby to get over the hump, and he went 1-1 in that season against Saban. So that's something for you to think about. And then the other question I have for you is with 6 undrafted Alabama players, guys like Watermeyer and others. I still can't believe he didn't get drafted. But guys like him, a lot of big name guys. Will NIL have guys staying in college maybe one more year? Because the reality of it is, some of these guys could have made as much money in an NIL as they will their first year as an undrafted free agent, and could have improved their stock potentially for the next year. So, with that said, we'll open up the phone lines. Encourage you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904. The Alabama One hotline is open for business. Thanks, Alan, for your patience. Come on in. What's on your mind, sir?
First of all, I got 2 comments, please. As far as Georgia goes, every Brian Swerve found one nut every 10 years. So that's basically what he did. Now, until he can do it every year, like Coach Beckman is doing, Georgia has nothing to beat their chest about.
Yeah.
Second thing I wanted to ask you about was what happened You know, the guy from Pitt is talking about going to USC and stuff like that with a big NIL deal. The NCAA has dropped the ball on this because what happens? Let's say Mr. Bryce Young decides he's at Bama and you know he has a real good year. Won the Heisman last year. What happens now if somebody comes through and says, "Hey, we're gonna give you $10 million to come here next year"? Then he says, "Well, I'll go there." Then somebody come after that and we'll give you $15 million to come to our school. To me, that's a can of worms that can't be closed now.
Well, two things. One is that 1 year recruitment thing. I think is going to happen in terms of that one. They get the one I call it the get out of jail free card. Like when you play Monopoly, if you have that card, you don't worry about going to jail because you just play that card. So they do have the one transfer. The second time, I don't see that happening because they'd have to sit out a year. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays itself out, Alan, in terms of will a rookie that flashes, a freshman that flashes, get some love, maybe get recruited away. But I don't think it's gonna be the big boys that get recruited away. Like Bryce Young, I guess technically he could go to California and get more, but you have to remember if he does that, Alan, he is going to be competing against all the NFL teams. He's going to be competing against all the other college programs out there, and he's going to be competing against actors in Hollywood. At Bama, he's going to be the man. He other than Nick Saban, who's the biggest stars in the state of Alabama? Bryce Young. Bryce. Huh?
I mean, he could stay there and get the guy from Pitt wants to leave there and go out there to USC. So why would he leave? When he's the man in Pitt.
Well, I mean, I hadn't seen that, but maybe now. Here's the thing: the Pitt brand isn't as big as the Alabama brand. Nick Saban himself said that the script A is almost on par with the NY. And when I say NY, the Yankees, right? You that blue NY, and you see a crimson script A, it's Alabama. I don't know how many other college programs see that, but I'm not familiar. I got a couple other calls, but what position does the kid at Pitt? The wide out. So
the wide out, the one that won the best wide receiver.
Uh-huh.
The Blizzard Cup for
Yeah.
He's supposed to get a big NIL deal to come out to USC next year.
Yeah, well, that's going to be
on the internet.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think that's going to happen, Alan. I think, like you said, and then Mark Emmert let this mess happen on his watch, and now he's going to retire. That's another whole conversation, but we'll
really.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a moment. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate you, man.
All right.
Thanks. All right, hey, we're a little off kilter here, so we're going to get Pat on this side of the break. We'll take a break. All the other callers will come out of the gate swinging to get you in. So be patient. Stay with me. But, Pat, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, sir?
Morning. Good morning. Hey, you know that it's been 4 or 5 years ago that this happened to LSU, that they had so many kids drafted. Remember that?
2019, yeah. 2020 draft.
And we never heard anything from them again.
Well, 2 years later, he was fired.
Well, exactly my point.
So
I'm talking about Kirby.
Yeah, now do you think Kirby's gonna fall that hard?
Hey, when you realize they were able to go from 1980 to last year without winning a title, and how many different coaches did they go through over there?
5.
Georgia Bush is patient now compared to LSU. LSU people are not patient.
Yeah, probably about 5, I guess. They had the.
But anyway, all that being said, I'm just saying that Kirby is not going to be able to come back from it either.
Yeah,
he does not have that ability. he did not stay with Coach Saban long enough. Kirby needed to stay at Alabama and learn how to actually be a coach. Oh, all he could do was steal our board when he walked out the door. Remember that?
I remember him stealing our board, but hadn't he been gone long enough that that he's recruited his own players over there at Georgia?
He caught lightning in a bottle. Is all he did. Oh, and
hey, let me tell you what. Let me tell you what Kirby did. Kirby used. Nobody talks about this. Kirby used what Nick Saban did to win this national championship. Go back during COVID, the year before. What happened for the first time at Alabama, and the reason we were so dominant? We had guys like Najee Harris come back, right? Devontae Smith come back. We had 4th and 5th year guys who were 4 and 5 stars who would have gone into the draft normally, right? And they all came back, and that's why we won the national title in 2020. Last year, Kirby, for the first time, Pat, convinced those guys to come back to win a national title. The positive of that, Pat, is that it worked out for him. The negative is he had 9 starters on defense that I think all got drafted, and maybe even a backup or 2. Okay, so the question now becomes: Alabama this past year had to replace Joe. How many was it? Mason, guys, was it 8 starters from our offense that was a world-setting offense under Mac Jones? Did we lose like 8 guys?
I believe that's the right number, yeah.
Yeah, and this year, Pat, we turn around and we still were one of the best offenses in the country. The question is, Pat, can Kirby do it now? Kirby has been and CJ says it. Kirby is no longer Nick's little boy. Kirby has now made his own mark, and he's the king of college football for this year. He's the king of the draft for this year, and he's been relevant for 4 or 5 years and would have 3 titles if there was no Saban. The question I have is, has Kirby ever been in this spot before? Nick Saban has had a team that has been stripped of 9, 10, first, second, third rounders. Kirby never has. Can Kirby come back? That's going to be Kirby's big question is where will Kirby's defense, where will Kirby follow up with the top defense? Alabama lost 8 guys on their defense and came back the next year and was just as good or better last year. We said that this team that made it to the national title, and I think would have won it had they not lost 2 of the best 3 players that left this team. I think they're in the running, Pat. So I mean, Kirby has a challenge ahead of him, but what Kirby's done is impressive so far.
Well, no, Kirby just got lucky in that because most people, even Stephen A. Smith says, had we not have lost Winston and Murphy and Mechie and 2 corners banged up,
Pat,
we would have beat him like a yard dog.
Pat, you know who you sound like right now? I agree that I feel like we may would have won. But the best team won that night. Here's what I'm telling you, Pat. You know that 14 years later, that's exactly, if you call Texas radio, that's still what they're saying.
Still what they're saying.
If Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt, Alabama doesn't win. Nick Saban doesn't win his first national title. That's what Texas is saying. We don't want to be Texas now. We don't want to be that. But here's the thing. So give him his love. Kirby, hey, Pat, my question is this, and I got to go to break, is this, Pat. Does the fact that Kirby had this many players on his team, Alabama lost 2 of their best players, their most dynamic weapons other than their quarterback on the offensive side of the ball, and this all-time great defense that we were playing, and we still had a chance to beat them? does that vindicate Saban as more than just a recruiter, but actually a guy who can coach X's and O's and develops good coaches and has a good system? We'll talk about that and more on the other side. Thanks, Pat. All right, thanks, Pat. Have a great day. Coming back on the other side, we'll get those other callers. Guys, be patient. Things got thrown off a little bit, but we'll get you on the other side right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
OverflowExpressWash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt?
I owe the IRS $37,000.
Get ready for a toll-free hotline. Take advantage of new IRS tax forgiveness programs that may protect you from IRS collection agencies. They have the power to garnish your wages, put liens on your property, and levy your bank account. Civic Tax Relief can help protect you from the IRS.
Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, I didn't owe the IRS anything.
Find out about the Fresh Start program that is now available through Civic Tax Relief. Civic Tax Relief's special tax hotline can help you discover all the relief programs available for free.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
Just call 800-324-4522. 800-324-4522. Don't wait. Call now. 800-324-4522. 800-324-4522.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9, guys. We're ready to get things going. I got a question, Joe, for you guys to help me maybe research a little bit. CJ Watson asked a question, and he asked, of course, for us Bama fans, we're not used to being the talk of the town, guys. So this is new territory for us. But in the last 15 years, I should say. But CJ Watson said the 2017 Bama class ended up producing 10 first and second round. Weren't they the 2020 draft class or the 2021 draft class? The 2020, I think. I can't
It would
remember.
have been a little bit of both. I think,
Yeah.
a lot of the probably marquee guys were that 2020 class, but some of the guys carried over into 21.
Yeah. And so when you look at that, within 2 years of that happening, Nick Saban won a national title and was relevant to the conversation for, part of the 2020 season, right? So, that's like I said, this is where we test the mantle of Kirby. Dabo Swinney showed that he could win a championship, play for a championship, lose players. In the last 3 national titles, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see, last 3. No, yes, the last 4 have all had older players come back. not Ohio State, but Georgia. I mean, Clemson convinced the guys to come back when Trevor Lawrence was a freshman, but they had all those senior defensive players. LSU had their offensive guys come back, and they won it. Alabama had their offensive guys come back and won it. And this year, Georgia had their defensive guys come back and win it. So maybe these coaches may be using that to recruit guys to stay a little longer. Let's get to Tom. Tom, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, Mark. Good morning. How are you?
Doing good, sir.
You know, I agree with you. Georgia won it. That's it. Case closed. And I felt good about our team last year for even making the national championship team after everybody said, now everybody's just saying, if Jameson Williams hadn't got hurt, we would have won. John Mechie hadn't got hurt, we would have won. Well, maybe.
I agree with. I agree with that sentiment, but at the same time, they did get hurt, and we didn't win it. And you know, I was pointing out to Pat, we don't want to be Texas 14 years from now talking about we would have won it. Tom, you still there? Did we lose Tom? All right, call back in, Tom. Hey, Curtis Lewis, are you there? Is Curtis there? All right. Both of those guys call back in 205-342-9904. The Alabama One hotline is open for business. So we'll get back with them if they can get added back in. Apologize for that, guys. The gremlin has struck again. But hey, this is going to be some interesting conversation because I don't do it now.
Got both Tom and Curtis back on hold. Ready?
All right, Tom, come on back in, Tom. You're in with the Martin Houston Show, man.
I agree with you. You know, Georgia's got their day. I mean, you know, I love the faith they're gonna have it. And I'll tell you something else that I read a great article about draft picks, all like that, and I agree with it when it says when we look at the draft and look at the college teams that do well with their players in terms of numbers of players in the draft. That's a report card on the head coach and his ability to recruit. And and I agree with that. And I'll tell you, back to your point, no matter how they got them there, whether they convinced them to come back for another year of eligibility or whatever it was, they done it. And then it paid off for everybody involved, players, coaches, trophies, and all. But to your point too, Kirby has done it, and he's won the national championship. That's good. But you're not going to be validated till you do it again. And that's just the way it is.
That's right.
And that's the way all of us look at it.
Well, I mean, like we just pointed out, LSU. Let's think about the other teams who have won national titles during the Saban era, or just before or after. What was the guy's name at Auburn that won it, and then he was gone? God, before Gus Malzahn. Chiswick won it and was gone. Okay. You had Les Miles won it, gone. All these guys are gone within 3 years of having won a title. And then you have, of course, Coach O won it, right, and now he's gone. So you know it's not easy to stay there. And with the way people run things now I think Kirby has shown enough that he'll get more leeway than that, because where do you go next? I don't think Saban – does Saban have anybody else out there, Tom, that he is ready that he's ready to put into the coaching tree?
Oh, I think that Coach O'Brien just headed that way. A move up, probably head coach somewhere.
The fact that he didn't.
There's a lot of candidates on that staff over there that will eventually, I think, be head coaches.
Oh, I do too. I just don't think they're ready right now. So that may give some of these coaches some coaching peace, Tom, because Saban doesn't have somebody else ready. Hey, I got to get out of here, Tom. Thanks for those comments, Tom. All right, Mr. CL Curtis Lewis, you're in with the Martin Houston Show on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, Martin. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I heard a couple of people, actually I saw a couple of things where they're saying that some of the guys who went out in the draft and didn't get drafted, they should have came back, or a couple of them should have came back. And I didn't see anybody that we didn't get drafted needed to come back. Because nobody that left really didn't have anybody take their place that they were better than. Even though Chris Allen, we have a heck of a contract for an undrafted free agent. That was a heck of a contract he got.
Yeah.
But there was no guarantee that he was going to beat out Dallas Turner. We sure wasn't going to beat out the Terminator.
Yeah.
So, you know, for him to come back. Josh Jones, you weren't going to beat out Eli Rick. You certainly weren't going to beat out Kool-Aid. So for you to come back. So I don't see anybody
the only one that I would say that would have that probably should have came back. Slay Bolden wasn't gonna. I think his stock was as high as it was gonna be, because of all of the talent you have coming in a wide receiver, and that was already here plus added. So I think he made the right choice, even though he wasn't drafted. I agree with you on Christopher Allen, because he was behind two dogs. I don't think he beats either one of those guys out. And if he comes back, he's going to split time at best. So it's not at best. So he's probably not going to raise his stock. Jalen Armour Davis got drafted. I think he would have helped himself if he had came back, because he still got drafted, and he was injured. It wasn't publicized a lot, Curtis, but he had some hip stuff going on most of the year. And I think had he been completely well, he could have held off Kool-Aid, or Kool-Aid would have flipped to the other side. And we have two really good corners. I think Josh Joe would have been the starter if either one of those two coming back would have benefited. It would be the two guys that I say probably. But since what's his name got drafted, he's not in the conversation, Davis. So the guy that I would say should have came back potentially, because I think he had that extra year, and I think he probably would have played, been healthy enough, and maybe Kool-Aid on one side, Josh Jobe on the other side. He could have made as much as a senior in NIL as he's going to make as a undrafted free agent. He'd be the only one I would probably throw in that category off of Alabama team. But there's a lot of other guys that like Watermeyer at Texas A&M, he probably would have got paid more than he's gonna make.
Yeah, he was a shock. I was really surprised that kid didn't get drafted.
There has to be something. I don't know what it is. There has to be something. When you look at his size, his speed, his hands, his versatility, he could block. And then you see some of the guys getting drafted at tight end, and you're like, okay, maybe that guy's really good. But you just don't know what happens. Maybe he failed a Wonderlic test and had poor football IQ or something. But I'm going to tell you this. Hey, Curtis, does that hurt? Yeah. Does that hurt Jimbo Fisher? Like now, even though Jimbo just signed that big class, the fact that he had some top players, because Texas A&M didn't do as well in this draft as everybody projected they were going to do. And then you have Alabama still sending, six guys in the seven guys in the first 3 days, first 2 days, six guys in the first 2 days. Still top 1, 2, 3 draft. 1, 2 rounds, 1, 2, and 3. Georgia having their guys. When they go in, they're going to start telling these guys, yeah, you can go to Texas A&M and be a part of the best high school class, but what's going to happen when you get ready to get drafted. And kids are going to look at that. Kids are going to look at that. And so I think guys like a guy like Watermeyer not getting drafted hurts him moving forward on the recruiting trail this year. So
it does. It does. Development is a huge factor getting drafted. You got to get developed. You got a 5-star coming out, but if you're not getting developed from where you were in high school, you're probably not gonna get drafted.
Right, and that's what happens. That's what I was gonna say. That's what makes Saban so special. I mean, we'll talk about this conversation even more. You may not be able to get in on it tomorrow. We really hadn't got to it, but does the fact that Kirby had all of that talent, and like I said, and Blind Squirrel makes a good point. Georgia did lose some DBs last year, but they lost them early in the season. I always tell people it's different when you have a chance to replace guys. Like I think if we were to lose Mechie and Williams in the first Georgia game and win that, then if we have a month to get ready, we can still beat Georgia without those two guys. But the fact that we built that whole game plan around Williams and then we lose him in the game, that's different. Do you think that this vindicates Saban anymore? Because he gets dogged around the country. That's the only reason Alabama wins is because he has more talent than everybody.
Well, that's part of culture. Is getting the talent in.
I agree with that, and I don't ever understand. I always tell people if it's that easy, why don't you just go out and hire the best recruiter in the world, and then you be winning national championship if it's just about coaching. But does that? But the fact that now Kirby had that much talent, and Alabama still took them to the wire after having replaced 8 guys on offense. And when you really think about it, the fact that you didn't have Mechie, we were 9 guys down from the offense that won the national championship the year before, even if you don't add Williams into that number. Does that vindicate Saban a little bit?
Oh, that definitely does. It definitely does.
So
Saban is still the GOAT. He's going to be the GOAT until he's no longer GOAT.
Well, hey, did you hear? Somebody wrote an article called Kirby, King Kirby. I said for the year, but if you're gonna give him, he may be him and Dabo right now are fighting. What is it? Prince Charles and Andrew, whatever their name. What's the 2 princes' name from over in England? The royal family.
It's Charles and Andrew.
We got Prince Kirby and Prince Sweeney, but it's still King Saban. So, all right,
it's still King.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging in there with me, Curtis. Thanks, guys. Hey, listen, guys, we're gonna get out of here a little bit early this morning. We're gonna combine a couple breaks here, but thanks, guys, so much for sticking with Tide 109. I think we got past the issues of the weekend with computers and technology and all that stuff. So it's gonna be a great day all day long. This station is going to be talking about this draft and all that. And we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, kicking things off at 6 o'clock. I'm Martin Houston. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Mason. Thanks, guys, for a great show. Thanks to all the callers, listeners, viewers, and chatters for being a part of the program. And we'll be right back here tomorrow talking more Alabama football, NFL draft, and more. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide, everybody.
Signals are malfunctioning on Lurleen southbound. It's good with downtown.
You too, Mason. Thanks, man. Hey, man, great